Alright, so last week we got the season finale to Star Wars The Acolyte. I didn't watch it until 2 days ago because I just didn't care. That tells you exactly what I'm going to think about this season. Alright, so one thing you should know about me, and if you clicked on this video, you probably already know it. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I do not like Star Wars pretty much whatsoever. I don't like the original trilogy. I like The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith and The Last Jedi. Those are the only 3 movies that I would say are good. And quite a bit of the Disney Plus stuff, not a fan of either. You're gonna see when I have a ranking of the shows in the coming days. So maybe I'm not the right person to watch if you want an in-depth review of the season, because there's so much stuff that I hated about this season. Well, we'll get into that in a minute, but before we do, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what is your opinions on Star Wars The Acolyte. This is gonna be a lot to talk about. There will be spoilers. I don't care. You guys probably don't care either. With that said, let's jump into my review. And in case you can't tell from the intro, I thought this show was pretty bad. And it's frustrating to me because there's so much in this series that I love, which is so weird because the action was awesome. There was a good villain here. There are intriguing ideas, but none of the execution of it was good whatsoever. It's like, I think this is probably the biggest missed chance for Disney Plus Star Wars in a long time. There's so much here that I absolutely really liked, but just in the execution, every single thing fell flat on its face for me. Some things I did like about the show. The action is really good. The moment we get to episode 5, they had the balls to kill off main characters and some great action sequences. Everything's shot in a spot that looks good. Either it's the whole episode 5, the Kilnaka action battle sequence, or any of the action in the final episode. It all looks great. Every time there's a cool action sequence like that, I am genuinely invested because it's just awesome. I think the villain here is pretty interesting. He has a lot of tech stuff that I think are cool and I have never seen in a Star Wars project before. Like in episode 5, when he's battling the lightsabers, he just takes his helmet, bam, turns off the lightsabers just like that. That's cool. That's awesome. Season finale, he's got a lightsaber and then he just pulls out the bottom of it and he's got dual lightsabers. That's awesome. I love that about the show. I thought that was crazy good inside of the season. And the villain, I think he was performed pretty well. The moment that we learn who he actually is, I think that's the point where he totally turns around and turns into a good villain for me. And I think he's pretty cool. And there's some intriguing ideas here. The fact that you have this main character that works for the Jedi and the intriguing reveals in the last episode that, hey, Soul killed your parent. Soul killed your mom, and she starts turning to the dark side. That's cool. There's so many cool things like that throughout this entire season. Now on to the bad, because geez Louise, man, there's no reason that this Disney Plus Star Wars show should have so much stuff like this. Terrible writing. And it frustrates me because, like I said, there's so many things I loved about this season, and it's just beyond frustrating. Starting with, like, the execution of so many of the ideas here. Like, it's a cool idea to have this young woman working with the Jedi, and by the end of the season, she is just turning against the Jedi. She don't like the Jedi no more for a good reason. Because Soul killed her mom. But the show could have gotten that point across much sooner. Instead, the show was like, hey, here's an idea. How about instead of like announcing some reveals 2 episodes or 3 episodes before the season finale, let's have all of the episodes be the Soul with somebody being like, oh, I should probably tell him, and then by the end of the episode, he gets to, I'm gonna tell him, and then the episode ends. That happens twice in a row, to where we think we're actually going to learn what actually happened, but we don't. We don't learn what actually happened. until like the second to last episode, because the execution is bad. It's like they heard our complaints about 6-episode seasons and knew we wanted 8 episodes, so they made episodes that were just people walking around and, oh, we're going to tell them the reveals next week or 2 weeks later. We're gonna give them the reveals that they want way later than they actually want them, so they get uninvested from the show. By that last episode, I was so uninterested in the story, and even though there were some great things in there, like Osha killing Soul, that was awesome. Turning into a Sith, that was awesome. But how much better would that have been if we learned the reveal? We had time to sit on it instead of all of a sudden, hey, Soul's the villain now, not the other guy. If we learned what they were trying to do before this last episode, it would have been much better. And the pacing just doesn't make sense. There are numerous episodes that are just people walking in the woods. Episode 4 is the one that comes to mind. Right after that abysmal episode 3, what do they do to try to redeem themselves? Give us an episode of Jedi walking through the woods and having conversations that not a single person is interested in. That's how they figure out how to redeem themselves from that god-awful episode 3. It was terrible, and there are numerous times where nothing's happening. It goes over the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again because it wants to fill up time. It wants the show to get more views, and in turn, people are just turning away from the show. And I was considering turning away from the show. I didn't even watch the finale till 2 days ago, a week after it premiered, because I just wasn't interested in it. I basically forced myself to watch it, and every time that the story comes forefront, unless it's something like really, really interesting, I'm just bored because I could not care about the characters. The dialogue is terrible. The writing is buns. It's awful. I can't believe that everything that had an interesting idea, this show could have been so good. It's a murder mystery within Star Wars, inspired by kung fu action. How do you mess up that? By giving us a story that no one cares about. It's so, like, the pacing is so weird to where, like, we have an episode 3, we go back in time, and we have a couple more episodes in the modern day, which nothing really happens in those episodes, besides the, like, people dying on the one planet. Episode 5, I think, was the best Disney Plus Star Wars episode that we've ever had. Like, that's how cool it was. Once it actually does something cool, it's great. But it rarely does anything cool. Anyways, and then like all of a sudden in the second to last episode, we go back in time. Rushed finale. Which wasn't really rushed, because there are again things I didn't care about in there, but still, we go back in time, and it feels like, oh, all of a sudden Soul's the villain because he killed the mom. And he didn't even do anything wrong. It was self-defense. She was obviously gonna attack him. Like, what? I don't get it. I don't get the writing. I don't get the idea. They had so much potential to do literally anything else, and they botched it. They botched the entire show, and it's beyond frustrating. And even like the back in time sequences just aren't very good at all. They're actually awful. Except when you're like with the Jedi, but when you're with young Osha and young May, I get that they're created from the Force, so the exact same person, but the actress, I don't even care about her name because she was awful, and I don't know if this is a script problem or if she didn't even try, but they were just so petty. Like, they argued because one wanted to go become a Jedi, and one's just like, no, I don't want you to do that, so I'm gonna set fire to the whole thing and kill a lot of people. Oh, that's me. Like, what? And, like, once they found out their mom dies, May walks up to Osha, hey, our mom's dead. And Osha's like, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. And they literally have an argument. Hey, it's your fault. On the bridge, right as May dies, it's terrible. Like, the terrible writing, terrible dialogue. It's like they wanted us to be uninterested in this entire plot. Tried to get emotional in the end with, like, May and Osha leaving. But it made no sense because they spent their entire life hating each other until the last episode when, hey, we're all buddy-buddy. This was literally after they both tried to kill each other in a fight. 20 minutes ago, you were trying to kill each other. What? What is the writing in this season? there's so many cool ideas that could have been done here. There's so much cool stuff that was in this season of television, but the entire show just fell flat for me because the writing, the story wasn't interesting. The characters I wasn't invested in. I was actually rooting for the villain to win because he was the only character I thought was pretty cool. Even though we get like cameos from Plagueis the Dark and Yoda or whatever the Plagueis guy's name is, I don't know, but Yoda, but they just feel like, hey, they're in this show. Cool. So The Acolyte was just a big misstep for me. I'm going to have a ranking of all the Star Wars shows, and it's weird because this is more high up than I want it to be, but that's because I just feel like Disney Plus Star Wars doesn't make very good shows. I don't think they're that good, and so I just wasn't into this season. So before I give you my final score, let me know down below, what did you guys think of The Acolyte Season 1? Hopefully that you're not losing your mind like I am. And with that said, The Acolyte has some cool moments, some great action set pieces, a great villain. But overall, the story, the writing, everything that tried to be what an actual good show could be, just every little piece of it fell flat for me. And that's why Star Wars The Acolyte, I'm going to give a D2. So that was my review of Star Wars The Acolyte. I want to know your opinions on it down below. And while you're down there, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell. In a couple days, I will have a ranking of the Star Wars shows. I'm seeing Deadpool and Wolverine tomorrow. Oh my god, I'm so excited. And then I'm going to have a ranking of the Despicable Me movies. I'm just waiting for a time that I can film it with my brother. But stay tuned for all those videos coming up. And with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.